Hey guys, and welcome to part 3 of my part-time jobs trilogy, covering the jobs I had between me graduating college and getting my current job. Now I did actually talk about these jobs before in a DeviantArt journal I did where I covered like the year between my graduating college from like May 2015 to May 2016, and this is basically just going to be a video version of that, so if you read that, it's going to be a lot of repeating. But yeah, this is where it gets pretty sad. I had 3 jobs and all 3 were fucking awful and I hated them. Now granted, there were other factors. By this point, I'm a college graduate. I don't want to be working part-time jobs. I don't want to be working part-time service industry jobs when I went to school to become like get into video production and stuff like that. I was also sleeping on my parents' couch. I had 0 privacy at home. But even with that said, I still think these jobs were objectively bad. I spent a few weeks jobless just applying to jobs I actually wanted, and then my cousin, who still was in college, convinced me to apply to Kmart, because that's where he was working. Yeah, we still had a Kmart in this town. It's not there anymore, thank God. It actually closed down in 2018, but it was still there in 2015, and working at a dying Kmart was one of the most awful experiences. First off, the application process implied it would be far more interesting than it was. You had to go through these simulations with customers, which, spoiler alert, interacting with customers was never like it said on those simulations. One of them was like this grandmother who had spent forever talking about her grandkids, and when you ask what you can help with, she looked really annoyed, and it's like, come on, lady, I have shit to do. But anyway, the job honestly started out okay. I mean, orientation was one of the most boring things you will ever imagine. Like, you know those cheesy orientation videos you ever watched for a job? Like, this was like the most boring version of that. Like, they weren't funny or anything like that. They were just fucking dull. But yeah, the job overall started okay. I was working with 2 of my cousins, and most of the co-workers were actually pretty cool. Like, there was this one guy, we would actually talk a lot about movies and TV and stuff. Although there was this woman who was kind of condescending, but that was it. Everyone else was absolutely cool. The managers also were cool. And it wasn't very busy because, well, it was at fucking Kmart. Plus, they would do like cookouts and stuff, and I got a lot of time off. The pay was shit, minimum wage, which again, even in 2015, still $7.25. So yeah, for like 2 weeks, I was fine. And then shit got bad. And it was like instant. Like one day, I'm like, okay, this job's okay. The next, I'm like, oh, I fucking hate this. I want out. I can describe this job in one simple word. Boring. And the thing is, I pretty much had to know how to do everything in there. I stocked, I unloaded, I did layaway, I got carts, I was a cashier. I had to know how to do basically everything, but I barely got to do much because this place was empty. I'm surprised this Kmart lasted another 3 years because it was desolate. It was basically a depressing flea market. They had just flat out stopped selling things like video games and bread. I genuinely think the only thing keeping this place alive for that amount of time were the dining room sets and the pools. We actually sold a lot of those. But yeah, you would just spend most of your time walking around trying to find something to do. The management in this place was shit. Like I said, the managers themselves were cool, and actually managing, they weren't. They were actually pretty bad at it. You had to go around and try to find a manager just to find where you're supposed to be. And like, again, a lot of the time we would just walk around doing nothing. But it's not like when we actually did stuff, it was nice. Unloading was a fucking nightmare because the area in which you were supposed to unload all this stuff was so tiny, so you had to walk around people. Stocking, I swear they kept shifting stuff around. One day it's like, oh, I got cookies. The cheap knockoff cookies, not Oreos, but like cream-filled cookies. Like, that's the kind of shit they had. But yeah, it's like, oh, one day these go in aisle 4, and then the next day they're in aisle 6. I swear to God, they kept switching shit. Trying to use that little scanner to find out where things went, that thing was useless. The back room was a mess, so if you had to find something for a customer, that was an adventure. Getting carts was annoying, because this just so happened to be the hottest summer ever, and there was no air conditioning in this place. And we had to wear long pants. Oh, by the way, One time I was bringing in carts, there was a mouse, like, in the cart area. Again, this place lasted another 3 years. But you know what? I could have handled all that. The worst shift of all was the closing shift. This one, from 5 to 10:30, which I got a lot, was so annoying. Because everything was done. So all we could do was walk around and do maintenance. Maintenance is not sweeping and mopping. No, maintenance is when you go around and pull everything on the shelves forward so they look nice. Now I know what some of you are thinking. That sounds like a pretty easy and sweet gig. No, it was boring. It was so fucking boring. It genuinely just makes time stand still. You'll get like 3 hours done. You'll look at your phone and it's like only 5 minutes have passed. You couldn't listen to music or anything like that. All you had to do is walk around, pull things forward, pretty much by yourself because everyone was assigned to different things, and that's it. Barely any customers were there. All you had were your thoughts for 5 hours. It was just fucking awful. And by the time we got into August, I knew the college students would be leaving and the high school students would be getting less hours, meaning I'd have to work more. And my thought was, if I have to work more, I'm at least going to a place where I can make some money and it's cold. So I applied for Walmart, got that job, put in my 2 weeks, and spent my last week going from orientation stuff at Walmart, which was fucking boring, and then going to work at Kmart. But even that couldn't be easy. You see, apparently my boss forgot I put in my 2 weeks, so I was still on the schedule. So I had one day in between my last day at Kmart and first day at Walmart that was free to me. Like, it was for me. So I'm eating dinner on my parents' couch, and my phone rings, and it's Kmart, the manager, asking where I am. And I told them I quit. And then they said I was still on the schedule for the week. So it's like, yeah, they just flat out forgot that I put in my 2 weeks. So they asked if I could come in for that day, and I'm normally one of those people who'd be like, fine, you know what, I'll be nice, I don't want to screw over the other workers, but this time I was like, no, I'm not going in. Normally I feel guilty because since a bunch of the college students had left, and with me leaving, that's a lot of people who left at once. But they really only needed about 20 people in total to make this place run smoothly every day of the week. I'm not really exaggerating. They really only needed 20 people. So that was Kmart. You probably will never have to work for one, but if you still have one near you and they're hiring, don't work for them. So now we get to Walmart, the 3rd time I worked there. But by now, it's a super center. Automatically, this felt like an improvement. They had air conditioning, the pay was better, it was more lively, we got free donuts every Friday. For about 2 weeks, I was actually feeling okay. Then I started hating it. The job was a stalker, although I did have to help unload a few times, and it was some of the worst experiences of my life. Like, it never ended. I swear to God, it went on for fucking ever. But yes, my job was to stock the food, excluding frozen dairy. Just the stuff in the aisles. That was pretty much me. I had, like, on the first night or two, I had to do, like, health and beauty, but I then had to just strictly do the grocery. This job was like the exact opposite of Kmart in every way. Where with Kmart, you had to know how to do everything, but you would spend most of your time doing nothing. With Walmart, you would do one thing, and one thing only, but you would never, ever stop. This store was so understaffed that you would basically have to do the work of 2 or 3 people, and they still expected you to get everything done by the time your shift ends. It was so bad I would often skip my breaks. We got 2 15-minute breaks and an hour for lunch. You couldn't skip the hour lunch, so I would often skip like those 15-minute breaks. I think a major issue was the shift time itself. Like I said, my job was to stock grocery, and the shift started at 3 in the afternoon and ended at midnight. Think about that. Have you ever been to a Walmart and gone to the grocery section at 3 or 4 or 5 in the afternoon? Of course you have. Everyone has. This was a terrible shift to stock because tons of people were there. You had to basically work around everyone, and the sad thing is, right before I started the shift, it was from 6 to 3. It was just before I started, they moved it from 3 to midnight. The 6 to 3 shift made much more sense because, well, there would be people there from like 6 to 9. It wouldn't be as crowded as from 3 to 6, and then you got those last 3 hours where there would be like no one there. These customers were some of the dumbest people I've ever seen. Like seriously, this place almost made me racist towards white people. It was mostly because this town is like 98% white. I mean, it's not like the black people, Asian people, Hispanic people are that much smarter, but it was just mostly white people who came in. But you know what? I can't really blame them. I firmly believe that Walmart has some strange, like, sphere, like invisible spear that makes people dumber. Like, when you go in to buy something, your intelligence drops like 20%. Why do you think kids are always screaming when they're in there? They've forgotten how to talk. Again, it was the exact opposite of Kmart. While that place was desolate, this place was packed. And of course, when you needed to stock something, someone would be standing in front of where you needed to be. One older gentleman, he just got this close to my face. Like, literally, I'm not exaggerating. He got this close to me just to ask for something. And I can't even remember what it was, but he just asked it. I'm backed into the aisle, and he just asked, like, where are the pickles or whatever? And some of the questions they would ask. Should I get the large mayonnaise or the regular mayonnaise with 20% more mayonnaise? It's like, bitch, I don't know. Just leave me alone, Grandma. I have shit to do. This is why whenever I go to Walmart, I don't annoy the employees. I try to get in and out as quick as possible. I know exactly what I'm going to get. I look, I grab it, I get out of the aisle as soon as possible because they got to stock. So how is the shift supposed to work? We get in at 3. By this point, the unloaders have been unloading the truck for about 30 to 40 minutes. They put them on either the ladder carts, L carts, or pallets, just like when I was there. Most of the time we just take out the ladder carts first, the ladder and L carts first, just because they were easier. But how this shift would work depended on the sub-manager you got. We had 2, a fat guy and a skinny guy. If you had the fat guy, you were screwed, because he would not let you just take a ladder cart that was already full and just replace it. No, you had to take everything off that ladder cart or L cart, and put it on a new one and take that one. Why? I don't know. He just said that's how you're supposed to do it. The skinny guy was fine with you just replacing it. Anyway, the job seems simple enough. Our shift, we get in at 3. All of us, like, we are assigned to a specific area. We had to stock grocery minus frozen dairy, pharmacy, paper chemicals, pets, and health and beauty. That was it. We had to get all that done within the 8 hours we had, so like by midnight. You'd think it wouldn't be that hard, but no, there was not one night where we either didn't get it all done, or the unloaders and stockers had to come out and help us. The stockers who would come in at like 10. There was so much shit. We had 2 trucks come in each day. There was no truck day like there was last time I worked there. We always had tons to do and tons of overstock from the previous night. And once again, there was just so much stuff that wouldn't fit on the shelves. You wonder how much food gets wasted at this place. So much of it has to go back into the back room for overstock. Oh, remember what I said about maintenance from Kmart, where you pull everything forward to make it look nice? Well, here you had to do that while you're stocking. You stock something, you make sure to push everything forward. I did this so much that even now when I go to the store, I'll find myself bringing stuff to the front of the shelf when I get something, just out of habit. But yes, you wanted to get everything done, not just because you were supposed to, but because if you didn't, that just meant more work you had the next night. There just simply was not enough people working there. The other associates, like, some of them were okay. Some of them were kind of condescending or just not great. One, I swear, she thought she was the boss of me despite having the same job. And I'll admit, I was slower than the average stocker there. One, I'm just not good at it. I admit, I'm not that good at it. I'm not that good at, like, retail work. I'm not. And 2, my home life was just making me miserable. Like I said, I'm an introvert. I need to be alone to recharge my social battery. I wasn't getting that at home. I sure as shit wasn't getting that at work. It got so bad at points that I actually nearly broke down crying a few times. Like, genuinely, I was that close to just crying. There were a few times I came very, very close to just walking up to my boss and saying, I quit. I fucking hated that job. The only good memories I have from that job are like the lunch breaks when I'd go out to my car and like have lunch and I could watch stuff on my tablet and it would be nice. We had to park in like the back of the parking lot because reasons. Like I said, we would get donuts every Friday. Occasionally they'd have like pizza and cake. And for lunch, like you could get Subway or stuff from the deli. It was cheap. So of the 3 jobs I had during this time, I'd say this was the least awful. If you're a high school student or in college or even just like doing this stuff, like you like retail work, you find it fun and rewarding, you know what, you'll probably like it. It's fine. Although I do have one like kind of interesting thing before I go to the next job. You see, in the break room, they had these magazines. They were magazines about how awesome it is to work at Walmart. Like they'd have interviews with employees from other areas of the country. One of these magazines, the cover was of a stormtrooper from Star Wars with a Walmart name tag on, like he was an associate of Walmart. So this was shortly before Force Awakens came out, so I understood them wanting to get in on the hype. But all I was thinking is, they're the bad guys? Are you basically calling yourselves the Empire? Like, I don't think you thought this through. But yeah, it was in mid-October that I put in my 2 weeks. I just couldn't take it anymore. So I spent the rest of 2015 without a job. I continued to fall into a very depressive state with my parents telling me, be happy. Yes, my parents said that. I love my parents, but I just wanted to yell at them whenever they'd say that. So we get into 2016. I still don't have a job I actually want. So I know I have to get another job soon because I have to start paying off student loans. So I start working at Pizza Hut as a delivery driver. And third verse, same as the first, for about 2 weeks, it was okay. And then I started hating it. The co-workers were mostly cool. It smelled nice. I mean, I like the smell of Pizza Hut. I know a lot of people don't, but I like it. And the job was pretty straightforward. We drivers, we'd wash dishes until we were called to make a delivery. That's pretty much it. Sometimes we'd have to take calls, and that, I was really bad at that, but I didn't have to do it that much. But yeah, just like I said, 2 weeks after starting, I hated it. Just like Kmart and Walmart. I don't know what it was, but every time, 2 weeks, it's okay, and then I hate it more than the last one. Okay, by far, the biggest problem with this job was the pay. This job paid minimum wage. It had shitty hours, and even though you got tips, you had to tell them how much you made in tips each night, and that got taken out of your paycheck. Because, you know, that seems fair. So my paychecks would be like $200-something each time, and by this, and like I said, my grace period had ended on my student loans, so I had to start paying those off, and one check would not cover an entire minimum payment. I barely worked. Like, I already was only scheduled for like 4 days out of the week for about 4 to 5 hours, and oftentimes they would have me go home early. I remember the day of the Super Bowl, the freaking Super Bowl, where you would expect them to want all hands on deck. I came in at 4:30, and the schedule said I'd be there till 8:30, and they told me to leave at 6:30. This is a job you can only do as a side gig. But even then, there are probably other jobs where you can get more consistent hours and better pay, like a McDonald's or something. So, Pizza Hut, if you're watching, which you're probably not, I'm begging you. Pay your workers more, just so they don't leave. There are better jobs that people can do, even for a high school job. This was not worth it. I'm serious, this is like Uber. You can only do it as a side gig. The only good thing about this job was that since it allowed me a lot of time off, I had a lot of free time to do interviews. For some reason, even though I got barely any job interviews in 2015, once we got into 2016, the job interviews finally started coming in mass. Like, I had to do so many of them. Some that I thought I had a chance for, some I knew I didn't have a chance for, but I went anyway. I actually did get a call for one while I was filming the Phil the Future finale review. And I still have that footage. I might show you when I do my fixing the flops on the Phil of the Future. But anyway, Pizza Hut. I wish I had more interesting stories from when I was delivering, but I don't. I was actually kind of disappointed that I didn't really get any crazy people. There was one house, they invited me in, they just had this giant bird that wouldn't shut up. That was like the craziest thing. Like everyone else, it was just like nothing. I did deliver to a few places that obviously were smoking weed, like, beforehand. And no, Pennsylvania hasn't legalized it. I also got to deliver to one of my old Kmart co-workers, and once one of my college friends came in, and that was embarrassing. Thankfully, I've seen him since I've gotten my current job, so he knows I've moved on. Delivering at night was probably the scariest, because we sometimes had to deliver to very out-of-town areas, like, in fields, very rural, like every freaking mile you'd see a house. So you're alone at like 9 o'clock at night in the middle of February, surrounded by nothing but fields, trying to find a house. One time I was making a delivery, I got to where my GPS told me to go. Like the address they told me to go. And I just couldn't find the house. And it wasn't just that. The entire street looked abandoned. Like all the lights were off. There were like no cars on the street. It was freaking terrifying. And none of the houses had like the house number that was on the slip. I stood there for like 10-15 minutes looking around trying to find this house, and eventually I try calling them and they don't pick up the phone. So I give up and then I call the manager and she's like, "We gave you the wrong address." Fuck you. Here's the right one. Honestly, the customers didn't seem that mad. They even still gave me a tip. Once I also got lost delivering to a place that was probably only a mile from the restaurant. I seriously have no idea how I didn't get fired. Like, I should have been fired. They were just that desperate for work, I guess. Probably the most interesting day I delivered was once when I had the first shift. I came in at 11 when the place opened, and I was the only driver, and you know, it makes sense. It's early. You shouldn't need that many drivers. Well, it just so happens that everyone in town wanted Pizza Hut that day because I delivered for 3 straight hours. No breaks. Whenever I got back, I had more waiting for me. Sometimes I had to take like 2 to 3 at a time. But I did get a lot of tips, though. Please tip your drivers. Just do it. One of the most annoying parts about delivering was the store. Like I said, I lived on the border between northern Pennsylvania and southern New York, and we delivered in both states. And my GPS has it to where you have to manually type in the state each time you want to change it, and so I would have to always go back and forth between Pennsylvania and New York. And the last thing I will say about delivering, if you're one of those people who orders pizza and sends it to another address as a joke, you're not fucking funny! That wastes time and resources. Don't fucking do that! But yeah, that's actually the only stories I have from delivering. It was actually really boring. But as bad as the job was, I don't think I truly began to just despise it with every fiber of my being until mid-March. Not only did I have to work on my birthday, but March 12th, we had a pipe burst, and it wouldn't be fixed for a few days, actually, and so we had to wash dishes in the sink. I am confident we broke several health codes. There is no reason that store should have been opened. I'm sure the customers would understand that they couldn't get their Pizza Hut. But yeah, those were some of the worst days. We were there so much longer than normal. And I actually did get another job offer while I was working at Pizza Hut. At a casino. More specifically, a casino/horse track/restaurant. I went in for an interview on March 16th for the job of taking bets. I would not have been good at that job, but at this point, I was just desperate to get out of Pizza Hut. I would have done fucking anything. The job itself was seasonal. It would only have lasted from like April, May through September. The pay was better, and it's like, okay, I guess I can do it. And yeah, I did actually get that job. They offered it to me on March 22nd. How do I remember the date? Because literally 1 hour before they called offering that job to me, I got a call from my current job, a full-time one that I actually wanted, offering me that job. That was seriously one of the best moments in like the last half decade of my life. Like, that was pure joy. I was so happy. And so yeah, I put in my 2 weeks at Pizza Hut that night. Thankfully, the new job, like, they knew I was working there and knew I would have to put in 2 weeks. It just so happened that 2 other people put in their 2 weeks that day, so the manager was kind of annoyed. I started my new job, and even getting my last paycheck from Pizza Hut was annoying. You see, they never told me that I had to return the shirt. We each got a shirt. You can even see it in the background of some of my videos I made at the time. But without that shirt, I couldn't get my check, and I left it up at my place. Like, I didn't know we were supposed to return it, so I just thought, oh, I'll keep it. So I had to come back the next week just to return it and get my last paycheck. And I've never set foot in that Pizza Hut again. I've set foot in the Pizza Hut down here again because they've actually helped me out at a time I really needed it. They offered me a free drink and shelter in the rain when my tire went flat. I'll probably talk about that sometime. So yeah, those are my part-time job stories. I don't know if I have much advice. Walmart is an okay job as long as it isn't an understaffed, and you're only doing it while you're in school. And don't work at places that only offer minimum wage. Pizza Hut can only work as a side gig. Kmart can blow me. Don't be an unloader at a Walmart, ever. In terms of the best and worst, the best by far was the film radiology librarian intern position. It was easy. I got a lot of alone time. I was able to watch videos while I'm working. The worst, that's actually a little harder. It's kind of a hard choice between unloading at Walmart and Pizza Hut delivery driver. Walmart paid more. It was probably more, like, I had more stuff to do, but Pizza Hut was way easier, it was less painful, and at least gave me a lot of free time. So I think I'll go with unloader was the worst job, because if I had to choose which to do, like, part-time, like, while I'm still working my current job, I would choose Pizza Hut in a heartbeat. Like I said, it's okay as a side gig. Like, that's it. Do Uber Eats, even then. Just do Uber Eats. Or, like, DoorDash or Grubhub or any of those. Is Grubhub a delivery service? I don't know. But yeah, that's it. Were these necessary? Probably not, but I like talking about them. Bye!